Good morning, everybody. Happy New Year to you. My name is Tim Harris, and this is 10 with Tim. I'm so sorry, y'all. I've done nothing but cough since the beginning of 2024. And I'm not in good voice today, but I did not want to miss my very first 10 with Tim for the year. So I can't promise this will be 10 minutes. I'll see how my voice will hold out. I love you guys so much. We take 10 minutes, give or take a minute, each day, Monday through Friday, and we go verse by verse through the Word of God. We started this way back in the pandemic. When we started, I was in the book of Exodus already preaching here in the pulpit at Woodburn Baptist Church. I didn't really think the pandemic would last long. I didn't think that I'd be doing 10 with Tim but more than a couple of weeks. I was trying to provide some spiritual closeness in a time of, social distance, all of that. And so I was just, trying to feed my people when we couldn't be together. I didn't really expect that it would turn into this, that we'd be going verse by verse of the whole Bible. So we stopped about halfway through the book of Exodus. I stopped, honestly, before it got difficult to move us on to something else. I think I started the Gospel of Luke, something like that, way back in 2020. So now that we're on this journey together, I'm backing up to pick up where we left off in the book of Exodus in 2020. So we're in Exodus chapter 19 today, verses 1 to 25. This is a good chapter. Tomorrow I'm going to ask you to read several chapters, but anyway, we'll get there. Let's start with Exodus chapter 19. I love this chapter. It says that exactly 2 months after the Israelites left Egypt, they arrived in the wilderness at Mount Sinai. Now, this is significant. Everything in the book of Exodus that's happened, since they left Egypt, that's been about 2 months. I think that's really remarkable. Now they're at Mount Sinai about to meet with God and receive the law, and this is so beautiful and dramatic. But just understand, everything that follows in the book of Exodus is going to take about 11 months, something like 11 months, which I think is, just put that in perspective. It took 2 months to get here. They will spend 11 months camped at the bottom of Mount Sinai. Everything that follows in the book of Exodus happens in this one location. I think that's just sort of interesting. The other thing that's interesting to me here is that the law itself is about to be received by God's people. Now, I don't know how you think the law should come. Most of us think of like a rule book, like, for example, when you were learning to drive and you got the driver's manual and it's just dry as dust. It's just, the rules of the road. And that's what you expect. Just, give me the list, give me the 10 commandments, on a piece of paper, on the wall. That's how we expect laws to be. In the ancient world, laws typically just came in a code of law. The Stele of Hammurabi, which is one of the most ancient codes of law that we still have, in possession. The Stele of Hammurabi is just that. It's just a large pillar, stone pillar that is covered with rules. But this is what's remarkable about the Old Testament God, the God of Israel, the God of Exodus. The law doesn't come cold, on a stone tablet. I mean, yes, they're stone tablets, but understand, the law that is going to be received, it's given in a story. Like Exodus is a story, and it's not just a cold, listing of rules here. It's a story where God Himself speaks the law, and the people receive the law with joy and a commitment to obey. So it is that narrative context which makes the law of the Old Testament so strikingly different from everything else you see in all other civilizations. The law of God comes to us through story. In the Bible, there's a setting, there's a story with it, and there's a context, and there is a living, breathing, personal God who personally speaks these words and gives this law as a sign of belonging, a sign of relationship with Him. You see that? So basically, the law comes to us in the context of a salvation story. I would say a love story. And I think that's important. So I'm telling you this before you read some dry chapters in the next couple of days. I just want you to understand that these come in the context of a story. And the story sort of lays out in chapter 19. And as I say, it's just beautiful. It's beautiful. Verses 4-6, God is speaking and God is reminding them what he's done for them. You have seen what I did to the Egyptians. You know how I carried you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. It's that picture of God, and it's a common picture of God that we see in the Exodus. It's God sort of portrayed as a mother eagle. Deuteronomy chapter 32, I think it's verses 10, 11, 12. Deuteronomy, speaks of God in fuller terms of this mother eagle who gathers the eaglets and cares for them. It's just such a beautiful picture of the way that God treasures his people. Notice that God's commitment to his people is already, it comes before. They're going to come into a covenant with him and they're going to make a commitment to him, but God's commitment to them comes way before. And that's just a picture of God's grace. He was loving you long before you loved him. He was taking care of you long before you knew who was taking care of you, and he's just so wonderful. He says, I want you to be my own special treasure from among all the peoples on earth, for all the earth belongs to me, and you will be my kingdom of priests, my holy nation. And this is the message you must give to the people of Israel. It's what God says to Moses. Notice that God is inviting them into this mission, into this privileged position in order to be a part of what God is doing to save and bless the whole world. It's an invitation, into God's, amazing saving work for all people, all nations. And I love that. I love that. So when the chapter begins in verse 8 with the people's commitment, all the people responded together, we will do everything the Lord has commanded. I just think that's beautiful because their commitment to him, that their response to him really comes before the law is spoken. It really just comes as a response, to him himself. I mean, notice what it says in verse 5. I want them to obey my voice and keep my commandments. It's not just a life of regulation, following the law, commitment to follow the rules. It's an invitation to a relationship with this, God of the universe, who is at work, to bless and save all of the nations. And it's just this amazing, invitation, a proposal to come into relation with him. So yeah, it's about obedience, but it's personal. Listen to my voice and obey whatever I say. Notice how that's open-ended. They haven't even heard what he's going to say yet. But the point is, you'll always obey everything he always says. It's ongoing. It's all future-oriented. And I love that. It's just this personal commitment to a personal God and not just a surrender to a life under regulation. Understand that for the Jewish people and for all of God's people, obeying God, keeping the law, so to speak, it was never this burdensome thing. It was a sign of belonging. It was considered a joyful way of life in response to the presence of a holy God. And we'll talk more and more about that. Now, in the rest of chapter 19, you'll notice that the mountain itself, my voice is running out, so I'm going to have to wrap this up. The mountain itself is described more or less in terms of the Holy of Holies. There's a restriction. Only Moses can come forward. And so I think in many ways you'll notice that this experience is God designed in order to do two things. To impress upon the people the reality of this. They are in the real presence of a real God. All of creation, is present. Thunder, clouds, firestorm. I mean, all of creation bears witness to his presence and his power. His voice thunders, but also the trembling of the mountain, the restriction of the people, to respect his holiness. All of this for them it's not so much that it's necessary. It's just the way that God is highlighting the reality of the people so that they will know and have confidence in his presence with them. But also, this entire experience is designed to authorize and underscore the divine credibility and authority of Moses to be the mediator, to be the go-between between God and his people. And so you'll see Moses going back and forth back and forth. So Moses went down into the chapter and told them what the Lord had said. And then from there comes the giving of the law. 10 Commandments comes first tomorrow, but I want you to read. It's more than the 10 Commandments, y'all. That's the point. It's all in the context of this story. I know that you'll read the 10 Commandments and then begin to skim. And I don't want you just to act like you read. You may skim some, but read enough to understand what God is saying and understand something of what the law says. So tomorrow, it's going to sound like a lot, but read chapters 20, 21, and 22. 3 chapters for tomorrow. I think you'll appreciate just being able to sort of, skim through these. So chapters 20, 21, and 22. All right, for tomorrow, and pray for me, y'all. Pray my voice. I'm trying to save it so that I have good voice, especially for Sunday. But I don't want to let you down either. So I'll see you in the morning. 3 chapters, Exodus chapter 20, 21, 22. See you in the morning, Lord willing, 10 o'clock for 10 with Tim. Happy New Year, guys. I love you so much. I'll see you tomorrow.